And we're back yet again with some memes flying around in the background as usual. I completely goofed it up, but there is plenty going on today in the early morning hours. And actually coming up a little bit later today, we do have a bit of an event. It's not a humongous event, but FOMC minutes are coming out, and markets do kind of somewhat like to, jolt around on that typically. But as of right now, it looks like Bitcoin doing the unthinkable. No, not doing the unthinkable, but doing what I did not think was likely in this case, in which we did get a nice pullback. It has not necessarily completely violated the previous Monday low from, oh God, I forgot to turn on the light right there. Hold on, let there be light, just one moment, hold on. And there it is, holy moly. Looks like a whole different scene right now, doesn't it? You can see all the gray hairs in my beard. I was just listening to a very long Huberman podcast about how to train your dogs. Don't think we've been doing it properly just yet, but there's time to improve. Anyways, yeah, as far as that goes, I do want to get to that, but let's actually start it off on over here with a bit of a different look, helped by my good old Claude assistant putting together some of the topics for today. And of course, we do have some geopolitical events going on in the background. What happened? Well, same fucking game that's been happening for like the past 3 months now happened yet again. The thing that happened again. Iran, the US having, fucking little bitchy fights going on between each other. But I mean, it is actually serious stuff, obviously. But more importantly, relevant to markets, oil spiked quite significantly, the first major spike that we've seen in quite some time. And Bitcoin, rejection off $64,000 in this moment. But like I said, FOMC minutes are coming out a little bit later today. If there's going to be some sort of, wishy-washy behavior on price action, that's probably where it gets spun upon. Anyways, catalyst, unwinding the tape. You got geopolitical flare, obviously, US strikes in Iran because Iran did this and that. And I mean, at the end of the day, is anyone fucking surprised that you can't trust Iran? Well, probably half this world is surprised, I guess, but different cultures, right? That's what we'll say. Different cultures. Yes, indeed. Different cultures. That's all it is. Yeah. Anyways, failed reversal, or at least so far. I would say it's a little bit too early to really completely validate that just yet. Still, my condition for taking out Monday's low is a very, very specific condition that, after that, I just have to get overall bearish, I suppose. And then, of course, Coinbase Premium. This is something that I've actually not been tracking on this channel, but really, rarely you see something like this, but the Coinbase Premium has had a 50-day negative streak under spot premium, or just what you would, I guess, consider the index. Which is interesting to me because typically Coinbase actually has a little bit of a premium over what you typically see on Bitcoin across the board. Anyways, as far as liquidation floors, we'll go into this when we get into central command. But yes, we do see a big area basically around that Monday low 61,200 in that zone between 61.2 to 61.5. I would say realistically it was quite literally Monday's low at 61.2. We'll go into this in just a moment. And then of course the macro liquidity node at 59,800, that is going to be seen directly on central command. There is some pretty interesting information going on right there, which in fact we'll just kind of jump into that right after we get through this. But of course, the volatility playbook, and kind of what I was alluding to a little bit earlier, is this. There is an event coming up a little bit later in this afternoon, and that is going to be the June Fed minutes releasing. Again, usually these are like not major surprises, but price, especially on a day like today, can kind of jolt around, can be a little more volatile around there. So I would be just aware that if you're trading around that time, expect some, like nasty wicks going either which way. And ultimately, where the daily closes, what's going to actually matter for Bitcoin's direction here. Are we going to witness an actual breakdown or not? There's a very specific level on price that must be maintained by today's closure, in which if it is not, then that's the next sort of trigger, I suppose, for some more downside price action. And then of course the step off trigger, revenge trading. A geopolitical news spike is an easy way to wipe a margin account. Yes, indeed. Thank you for fucking typing that one out. Don't know why I put that one in there, but you know what? It's important nonetheless. Anyways, get on over here. I want to quickly show this off on Central Command. As we went over on Monday's live stream, there is a new feature added right here, which is the CFE, the counterfeit levels indicator. Again, all of this stuff is free. It is a very nice way of saying what Central Command did is they tracked the worst performing traders, and then they also have tracked, in this case, I'm actually showing their average stop losses, both for longs and shorts. On the short side, it is actually kind of an area that I more or less agree with, 62,800 to the upside, meaning that as long as Bitcoin's below there, should be more or less, little bit more weighted towards the downside in the short term. And then, of course, on the long side, long stop loss is coming in around at an average price of just about 60,000 bucks. It's kind of like your 59,800 level as well. Basically below there, expect the rocket fuel in the form of liquidations and stop losses being hit to point Bitcoin back down to basically I think this was last week's lows. Yes, indeed, it was last week's low, about 58,000 bucks and change. Overall, though, I do want to state that while all of this is going on in the background, there is still, I guess, a little bit of hopium coming into that later day event. And as we go into it right here, I just want to go over the very, very important level relevant for the daily, which is, of course, based off the Rev and Ribbons indicator right here. The mid band, which again gives us that nice directional bias, is currently at $62,055. And that is actually a very specific number for CME, for spot price action. The same number or the same relevant level would be, if we can bring it up right here, it actually might be the same at this point. No, it's not. It is 61. Oh, it's actually today's low. That is very interesting. Spots Rev and Ribbons actually playing out a little bit more technically here, to be fair. Typically CME is the one that's actually the better chart, and look, I would still say it's actually the better chart right here too. I mean, technically did reject on those gray dots in upper band number one, now resting on, of course, the mid band. Both of these I do think are relevant, but more or less today's low, very important, of course, and basically on a closing basis, closing below about 62,000 bucks for CME would not be, at least I would not, interpret that as a positive development. I would interpret that as likely be getting ready for another move down. Yes, I still want to see Monday's low taken out to really have that more strong bias for further downside price action. But until then, with today's later event coming up, I don't want to get too in the weeds with what's going on right here, because ultimately those are the numbers that do matter pertaining to today's closure. Or again, if Bitcoin just trades below Monday's low, that's probably going to be bad enough on its own. Anyways, before we go any further, I do want to actually, no, let's go a little bit further. Actually, let's round out the bearish case right here, because if we go over here to Caretaker's RSI, we can see that there is some hidden bearish divergence developing. We alluded to this on Monday, as this will naturally be an inevitability on the daily time frame, because the daily RSI was making higher highs than anything we saw going back all the way to even the 20th of May, when Bitcoin was trading all the way up here at about 77 to 78,000 bucks. That playing out right here, is that going to be good enough to actually force things down? I suppose if this is going to be the bear's last stand, then this is essentially where it very likely come from. So if you do want to be bearish, I understand the sort of reasoning behind it. I don't want to lean that way just yet myself until we see, again, those very specific validations being hit. But to be fair, the trend is your friend, and this is still ultimately a downtrend, even on as low of time frame as a daily. Obviously, it's going to be the same thing on the 2-day, the 3-day, the 5-day, the weekly, the 2-week, the monthly, the quarterly. Thank God it's not on the fucking yearly yet. That could be very ugly. But as it stands right now, yes, that is in play. And if we go over here to our stochastic momentum oscillator, I think the daily time frame is in danger of turning down soon as well. It is coming into a little bit of a little bit of lackening resistance right there, loosening momentum, of which the current pivot is 61,700. So actually Bitcoin's above there right now, to be fair. Again, if Bitcoin can maintain today's closure above 62,000 bucks, okay, I would still, I would still give the bulls their credence, because ultimately the other timeframes, still nothing's really changed there. There are still decent signals for this move continuing higher, which I actually do think will happen. More or less, I do still think, regardless of whether you're super bullish or super bearish, at some point Bitcoin will retest the daily 55 EMA, which is currently just below 66,000 bucks. In fact, it is 65,939, or 939. And I wouldn't really be expecting any major pushes to new lows until that occurs. Now, of course, my opinion is wrong very often, as always, so that doesn't necessarily need to happen, but generally these things do happen. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right here. And then, hey, if things come back down kind of where they're at, then yeah, that would be quite concerning, let's say. Anyways, yeah. As we move forwards here, I do want to, the Reverend Ribbons catching it again. I know, but to be fair, if you're going to be playing this, do have to wait for the daily closure. And I would say, if you are scalping ranges, then hey, you already had your trade right here, because, perfect rejection off of the upper band one. Beautiful. Coming back down to base on, of course, the mid band right there. Okay. That sort of scalping trade would have already been had. And I know a lot of people are looking at the Revenue Ribbons as a scalping tool. And honestly, I think it's in some cases kind of better situated for that. I get it. A lot of people using this in a lot of different ways. Anyway, speaking of that, I do want to what's up, Tetons, the Grand Tetons. What's up, man? Good to see you, brother. Good to fucking see you. I miss J Power. Yeah, man, he was a character. He was a good guy. Good guy, J Power. He was just fun to listen to, man. A perpetual war as intended. Yes, we have another conspiracy theorist who just cannot cannot fathom that two different countries might just always fucking hate each other because they're ideologically opposed. Not because, it must be because there's a conspiracy behind there and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just bullshit as usual. Anyways, Caretaker, what's up, man? Instructing Hoy Hoy to make a pass at his would-be sister-in-law. Great idea. Yes, grow up your sister-in-law. Just do a little bit of SA. All good, man. All good in the hood. Anyways, before we move on, I do want to give you a quick note right here because where the fuck did it just go? Yes, I have it on my screen over here. The butt-funded people over here, the butt-funded people right here are actually offering another 50 free accounts. They're offering 50 free accounts for, I think like a total of $250,000, something like this. All you need to do is just click on it. The first 50 people will receive a free account. Again, I can't control this or anything like this, but I would, and this is the reason why I've kind of, even partnered with them a little bit, is I would hope that someone who's, maybe from like a disadvantaged economical situation, something like this, but actually knows how to trade, has actually gone through all of the fucking countless hours of studying, of toil and work, and just needs access to more funds. I would hope that that person takes advantage of that. The people who obviously already have that, or the people who are just gonna use it to gamble, look, I can't stop you from doing it, but I would hope that you wouldn't do it. Just have some goddamn fucking decency for fuck's sake. But again, I can't stop you from doing it. But ultimately, there were a few people actually successful from the last time they reached out to me, and that was super, 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 super company. And that's exactly who I wanted to see take this, because ultimately, if you already have your strategy, then it's just scaling that up more or less. So again, I understand people come from all different parts of the world, watching these videos, and $5,000 can be a lot to many people. So that is really awesome to see, and more power to you. Anyways, again, if you're not that person, just wait for the next one. Just wait for the next one. All good. All right, sweet. I think I pretty much hit everything that I want to say here. Today is kind of like a simple day, I suppose. Again, downside below Monday's low bad, or closing below $62,000 on CME bad. If you're on spot price action, closing below 61,400 also bad. But I would be looking at CME for the closure. I would be looking at spot for the wick below, basically. If either one of those two things happens, yes, I do have to turn into short-term, medium-term bearish, looking for Bitcoin, likely below $60,000 again, or at least testing $60,000. But keep in mind, if Bitcoin does test $60,000, that starts to hit a lot of these stop losses over here. Interesting how that comes in at right a round even number, despite any like real technical significance, to be fair. Anyways, all right, cool. Let's get over here. I will scroll back up to the top of the comments. We got AB. He says MRK weekly, monthly. Okay, this is a new one, I think. Merck Health. Don't know what this is. Not terrible, but is retesting a previous, in this case, I think all-time high. Indeed it is. So first pass on that, as always, I'm looking for a pullback, but I actually don't think that you've had the official first pass. In fact, 135 is still not necessarily tested right here. So, at some point in the next month or two, I do expect 135 to get tested. In fact, June closed really, really well. Short term, is it likely to pull back? You are on a weekly, so perhaps that is relevant. There is some bearish divergence developing here, so certainly possible for a pullback. So where would a pullback target be? Anywhere down around about 120 to 123 is fair game. All good right there with that red 5 EMA governing price action on this current upside move. So I do like that. So short term, if it wants to pull back there, fine, all good and dandy. I would be looking at some point this month or next month for a retest of the previous all-time high. Again, very, 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 very likely you're going to pull back on that first pass. But I do think that this one's actually rather set up quite well for the long term here, and will, continue to trade on and trend on towards new all-time highs. But I think that this ultimately, this consolidation right here, I think can go on for a little bit longer. It might take another, couple months to really resolve this after you get that official test to your previous all-time high. But I do think before end of year, you will see new all-time highs, whether it's, September or whether it's actually in Q4. I don't know, but I would expect kind of this next month or two, things slow down a little bit for this, despite short term, probably a little bit of a downside move, and more medium term, probably test up to the top side range, but no breaks either which way realistically. Anyways, Jeffrey Clark's looking at SpaceX on the daily. Yeah, let's definitely look at a daily time frame for an asset that's been around for like a month or maybe even less. I can already tell you that I'm not going to have a good analysis on this, so I don't really know what you want me to do. An hourly time frame barely even works on something like this, to be fair as well. And the only thing that we got here is just trend. The trend is your friend if you are bearish, I guess. But other than that, man, overall, I'd have to be weighted towards the downside. I mean, for what it's worth, we have been bearish on this. There's not really much for me to do here, man. There's no chart history. So a daily can't even populate a 21 EMA. Why? Because there's not even 21 days of fucking trading history. And that would just be one little pixel, one little tick. I'm sorry, man. I just don't have a good opinion on this. You don't want my opinion on this because it's bogus. And honestly, I don't really think anyone's gonna have a good opinion on this from a technical standpoint right now. Just because there's nothing to go off of realistically. Just kidding, bro. It's definitely going down. No, it's definitely going up. Again, I have no fucking clue, man. As far as this thing goes, even if I'm in the hourly, there's not any super obvious technical signals to me. If anything, I would just say the trend is your friend. Get ready for more downside. If it bounces up, look at 153. If it continues down, there is nothing to be going off of. Maybe 120. I'm just pulling that one out of my asshole. But yeah, man. Anyways, you come back and you are asking for Shaz. Yeah, this one's popped up a few times now. Sharon AI, whatever the fuck that is. Again, another very new thing, but at least it's on the daily. So we at least got something on a daily here. I do think short-term, medium-term is a correction here. I think they come back down to that $64.50 number, that being based off of the red 5 EMA and the yellow 21 EMA crossing the downside right there. So I do look for general corrections over here. To be fair, if it does come down there, it's still technically a higher low. So it's really only in sort of limbo here, or, you know, it's basically only fucked if it really closed below on a new low, thus confirming the actual reversal. But until then, you know, does the weekly look great? Again, we don't really have much of a chart here, but I would say not necessarily. But again, going off of extremely little, looking for something that's obvious here. Not really seeing it. I think short term, you pop back down to like 64.5, $65, whatever. Try another bounce there. Does the bounce fail or not? I don't fucking know. If you see it start to close below $62, okay, get ready for an actual downside move. As well as if it closes above about 83.75, the price action pivot right here, I'd say, all right, continue on with the all-time high party, I suppose. Until then, not really going off of much here. Very, very new thing. Anyways, Arms Private is back. Says Bitcoin closed below 62,600 in 4-hour time frame and looks like it will break down. Sadly, I closed my shorts. Where do you think I can re-enter with confirmation? Okay, so I'm going to adopt your preferences here and your mindset. I want to say at the outset, I'm not of the same mindset. I'm not of this same opinion as you. So, like, we need to separate two things. You are forcing me to adopt your preferences. That's fine, but I just want to acknowledge that going forwards. Okay, so if I had to short this thing and choose a good area to short, where would I short? Well, not necessarily right here. There's two areas that make sense. One, either on just a move down below Monday's low. I think that's kind of an easy trade. You know, doesn't maybe hit Monday's low and then bounce up a couple $100 and then continue down, maybe something like that. But overall, fine, whatever, anywhere around there, fine. The other way, in my opinion, to do this properly would be to wait for a bounce back up somewhere around about 627 to 62800. Why? Because I think in terms of risk. So when I'm looking at this position, I could also see a bounce as well. But where do things actually change around for Bitcoin here? Basically reclaiming this morning's high. This morning's high of 63,700. Did I say 62,800? Because I meant 63,700 to 63,800. Basically, that would be the risk. Basically, as long as you're below there, on a bounce, I could still understand the preference of wanting to go short there, I guess. Because that would be my risk. So I'd want you to get as close as possible to that entry in order to take that trade. Because if it's not going to work out, then, I don't have to risk that much money. That's the way that I think about these sort of things. But does that mean that you're guaranteed to bounce up there? No. I'd rather trade that because the risk is minimal, or trade a break below Monday's low. Because in my opinion, once it actually breaks below Monday's low, risk is very minimal because the downside direction is just, it's at that point, you broke in your last line of hopium, I suppose. So yeah, anyways, I mean, ideally, Bitcoin really tests the green 55 EMA before any actual continuation of the downside as well. So that kind of bothered me if it doesn't do that right here. Did CME do the same thing, though? It did do the same thing, in fact. Yes. Okay. Interesting. Perhaps CME is the tell right here. I don't know, man. I probably wouldn't be rushing into this position just personally, but again, I'm adopting your preferences in this regard. So I'll just put it into context of risk analysis. Like, where's your risk? On today's, for today on a bounce, that it would be the high of the day is your risk. Do I think that's going to work out perfectly? I think you might have to take a few paper cut losses, even if that does end up working out, and at worst, like a real loss as well. Arms Private is back again. He says, can you look at Bitcoin for the very short term? Okay, so what exactly does that mean to you? Give me a time frame for that. I'm going to go with an hourly because that's what it means to me. Again, I just don't know exactly what you mean. Anyways, you're saying, I'm in the opinion that it will bounce at least a few $1,000 before continuing down. A few $1,000 puts Bitcoin at $65,000. So that'd be a new high in the rally. I don't know if I'd necessarily be bearish on that, man. But if you're just talking about like an hourly time frame on a bounce, well, you do have a little bit of bullish. No, you do not have bullish evidence developing here. I'd be looking at somewhere between the yellow 21 EMA and the green 55 EMA. So that'd be 600 to $63,000. Obviously, those are going to adjust going down over time. But do I think it's going to bounce? I'm not really getting any major indication in the short term that it is going to try like a major bounce here. Then again, I go to the 2-hour time frame. Okay, yeah, probably does try a bounce to like mid twos, so 625 to 627, I would say. It might even just be a higher low right here, to be fair as well. So there is that. Anyways, like I said, in my opinion, the easier trade for you is just waiting for an actual break of Monday's low. I feel like, look, I'm not trying to be your fucking psychologist here, but you might be getting married to a position, and I don't know. Perhaps I just have a difference of opinion. Fair enough, man. That's what we got, markets. Different opinions. Anyways, Arms Private is back again. Cold, short, and long term. Do you expect balance to 43 to 45 before continuing down the hill? Like I said, overall, I'm extremely bearish on these. Gold, do I still think that it can test about 43? It got up to 42 on this bounce. So I've never said 45. I do not think it's going to get up to 45. Where would 45 even come from is the real question. Well, actually, wouldn't be that crazy, I guess. Look, overall, I'm very, very bearish on it. If it wants to bounce up to 43, I think that's just a much easier position to be taking for the exact same reason or similar reason to Bitcoin. It's just a back test on your last 6-month open. These get very, very commonly tested. Could you say, hey, $100 is close enough in this case? Sure. This one getting up to 42.02, and obviously the previous 6-month open was 43.26. It's close enough. I don't know. Would I still be open to it? Yeah, for sure. The one thing that is very, 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 very likely, in my opinion, is that later this year we're going to see this thing below $4,000, like on a closing basis, like deeper, 35 to 3,600, something like that, man. There's going to be bounce in between, obviously. This thing hasn't really even had much of a bounce since the actual high was put in back in February, March. But I don't know. Does it try a bounce from here to 32, reject, and then go down? Does it just go down from here? I have no idea. 42 might be high enough, in which case I would say, look, the long term is what is obvious here, not necessarily the short term. I'm trying to look for another obvious thing, maybe on a daily, just another downtrend here as well. It's downtrend in every time frame, basically. So I actually kind of like Bitcoin on the daily right here too. Not great, man. Anyways, let's see. Short and long term. Yeah, short term. I would still keep my mind open for that, for a bounce to 4,300, just to officially retest a previous open. But if it's $100 off, it's $100 off, I suppose. All right, and then Arms Private is back again. Hell yeah, man. BNB short and long term. Do you expect higher? I would just assume no, but let's see. Do I expect higher than what in the short term? I mean, similar to Bitcoin, you got another lower high right there. You got hidden bearish evidence right there as well. So short term, if anything, have to be downside angle. This one is more weak than Bitcoin in the short term, it looks like. Probably going to retest the previous week's open, which is about 550 or so. Does that get accompanied by some Bitcoin downside as well? Very possible, I suppose. But anyways, long term, do I expect to try higher? I mean, not anytime soon, man. Like not anytime soon at all, really. I think generally your range here is between technically it's between these two levels right here, but more long term, if we're going to incorporate the monthly, I mean, it's realistically it's between about 725 all the way down to 400. Yes, that current interim area at about 520 is relevant, but I don't think that really matters towards, pertaining to like the very long term. If you're on the short term, then sure, yeah, going to matter, obviously. But as far as, short term, do I think it tries higher? If Bitcoin does, this thing will as well. Just try for a bounce here and bounce back up to like 570 to 575. It's the same thing as like Bitcoin back to 62.5, 62.5 to 62.7. Doesn't really do much. Doesn't confirm bullishness. Doesn't necessarily confirm bearishness. It's just, a bounce within an overall range. Doesn't change anything for me. So if that's what you mean, then I guess. But again, without like defining terms a little bit more, I'm not necessarily sure exactly what you mean. But hopefully I've made like my thoughts clear there. Look, if I'm looking at this one long term, do I think it's going above 720 anytime soon? No, I don't think so. Take a fucking monumental move from Bitcoin in order to get that. But like very long term, if we're talking about 4 years in the future, I mean, probably this thing has been one of the few shitcoins that's actually made new highs from cycle to cycle. Almost 99.9% of other shitcoins cannot say that. So fair enough, right? Anyways, let's see. Arms Private says, you were mentioning if Bitcoin trades even $1 below 61 at 280, we are going to go. Bitcoin's going to go. You and I are just going to be sitting on our ass in our chairs to 58,000 bucks. Can't we trade a little lower and bounce back to continue? I mean, like when I say that, what I mean is that 61,280 is a pivot. That doesn't necessarily mean like literally every fucking tick after that on even a second chart is going to be down until you get to 58,000 bucks. Like that obviously is not a thing. Are there going to be bounces in between there? Sure. Yeah. I mean, of course, the market doesn't move in a straight line, even in the most dastardly of downside moves or the massive or even the most impressive biblical parabolic rallies, man. So yeah, look, I expect Bitcoin to try a little bit of a bounce from here on the short-term timeframes. I just, it doesn't really mean all that much in the short term just yet. Depends where Bitcoin's daily closes. That's what actually is going to really help me decide, where my biases will be throughout the rest of this week. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. So yeah, 61,280. If it goes below there, I generally think Bitcoin's coming back down to 58, 58.5, whatever. Does that not mean that there's going to be a bounce somewhere along the way? Yeah, of course. I'm sure that there will be bounce on lower term timeframes, of course. Anyways, ZPH says, do you still hold ENTG weekly and monthly? I guess that's a request. Yes, I do, because again, my criteria for invalidation and managing risk has not necessarily been met just yet. Although, kind of hope it comes soon, man, because I just this thing's taking too fucking long. So the weekly criteria was taken out the previous week's low, which is 123.77. So that obviously has not happened just yet. So that condition has not been met. And the monthly timeframes condition has not been met because it has not actually closed just yet. If it were to close today, then yes, I would be forced to manage risk here. But right now that pivot is at 142.5 or so. So look, I took this based off of very long-term analysis. I was looking at the quarterly time frame and the 6-month time frame. So I'm not going to rush to get out of my position right here. Have to stick to my guns. Now, if you're over leveraged and you're trading this on the shorter term time frames, then well, shit, yeah, you're fucked. I mean, that's if you're following what I'm doing, because I've been a little more transparent about my moves here, you have to understand why I'm doing it, my preferences, like these sort of things. And even then, I can still be wrong, obviously. But so far, no, it has not hit my invalidations. Thus, I'm not going to change my position. I'm not going to do anything. That's that's just the purpose of having a trading strategy and rules. Until your specific rules that you laid out before ever taking the trade are met, you don't take any action. Just waiting. So when I look at the 3-month time frame, when I look at the 6-month time frame, these both look like retests of the red 5 EMA. I don't see any major issues with that long term. Short term, I would, however, take the loss if the weekly does put in a lower low, again, below 123.77. That's probably going to be the soonest thing that could happen that would cause me to take a loss on this. But until then, I'm going to stick to my guns here, man. Anyways, only another video says NUAI done for. No idea, man. Never looked at this one in my life. New Era Energy and Digital. Seems like it's got all of the marketing, terms in its name. Beautiful. Do I think it's done for? I don't know if I'd say that just yet. It's a little bit too new to say something like that. Overall, I think it's a range. And yes, there are some, certainly, I guess, concerning things going on here if you do want to be long, I guess. But at the very least, it hasn't taken out the most important point, which is this last price action pivot right here, which is 386. As long as you're above there, hopium exists, right? But if and when you do start to not just come below there, but close a weekly below there, then yes, I do think that you're in for a real weekly reversal in this case. Until then, yeah, I think that you got some short-term downside, but I would be expecting a bounce kind of around that region, anywhere between that 386 number, which is that previous weekly low, and about 415 or so. Somewhere in that pocket there, probably going to try a bounce. Would I say it's done for necessarily? No, I need to see this thing actually validate a reversal condition, which it has not just yet. Now, again, new thing, so shit can move fast, right? But I'd actually probably be looking for at least a little bit of a short-term bounce temp right there. If you're on a daily or weekly, I guess probably not that relevant to you though in the short term, to be fair. So yeah. Umbaketo Loco says, GM Krown, what's up, man? Woke up and saw the red, sold everything and panicked. That's a great idea. Everything is going to $0/S. Yes, indeed, man. Indeed. 696634 says PENG. Is this Penguin? No, it's Penguin. Okay, yeah, it's a real stock. That's right. Daily weekly bought Monday's low. Fucking nicely done, sir. Holy shit. I'm guessing you bought literally the low. In fact, pretty much you did. I mean, close enough, right? In this case, some probably bottom like mid to low 60s, now trading at 78. I like it. And I think you are in for a real massive continuation of this breakout move. Now, it's had a pretty impressive move thus far, to be fair. So I don't know how much this one realistically has to go in the long term. I want to see the macro extension right here. Hey, pressed the wrong damn button. I want to see the macro extension here, and then also the extension for the previous short-term consolidation. This one showing areas of interest around 80 and 17 cents. Then you got about 90, and then you got about 101.5 from there. Let's see if that lines up with the short-term extensions right here, because that could actually help judge which is most likely. And let's see. So here, I think that you will at least get to about 89, 90. Do you get to 96.5? I think that's actually quite likely as well. And then from there, 105, 108 is probably where I'd be looking for. Overall, this move is pretty exaggerated. So I don't know how much more it has to go on like the very high term terms, but in the short term and medium term, I think that you got more, man. And I think that this thing will reach up towards a triple digit number. Stops along the way, obviously, like we just went over on those areas of interest. But yeah, not bad, man. Not bad. And especially when we go to like the monthly, yeah, just continuing to trend above that red 5 EMA. So quite nice right there. And semiconductor, okay, I'm curious to see how the semiconductors doing today, because I know Intel was pulling back quite significantly still. Yeah, quarterly still okay right here, to be fair. So this one, if it is going to top, I think this would be like it's probably more like an early Q3, or sorry, late Q3, early Q4 type thing. Yeah, overall, massive volume spike on this green dildo so far. So assuming it doesn't just shit the bed by end of day, which, hey, there is an event coming up later today. So possibility, I suppose. But assuming that it doesn't do that, assuming that it closes here or specifically higher, then I think the breakout's real, man. I think you're heading more up in a decent way as well. Cool. All right, Lucas Cordes next says, oh baby indeed. Could we look at ABCL? Sure, man. And I need to take a sip of this water as well. ABCL, Absorella, okay. Oh, wow. We just got our water filter changed, and the water tastes heavenly yet again. I love it, man. I love it. ABCL. Okay, so trying to see. Do we have a chart on this one? I feel like we have seen this one before. All right, let me get my bearings here. We have this big breakdown over here. We got this swing high over here before another big breakdown, kind of resting around these two areas. Overall, I think that it probably does spike a little bit higher. In the short term, though, you're in a bit of a consolidation. I think a little bit of sideways and downside might come down all the way to like 670-ish region, maybe even officially retest the previous closing high at 6.5, but 6.5, 6.75, somewhere around there, probably on this pullback, probably also playing out some bearish divergence. Indeed, you do have it on character RSI right here. In fact, that would even be 3 drives, to be fair, off this little stutter step spike right there. Ultimately, I don't hate it necessarily. I do think that you have another try higher, but it should be known that once you get into like the $8 to $9 region, I do think there you might come into like a major top there. The reason why I say it is because this thing has not necessarily, well, it actually has reverse right here. You do have a higher low and you do have a higher high, but it is not above the previous macro breakdown. To me, that's the important one. That's the one that actually produced new lows. And also it's in alignment with the green 55 EMA. So, that sort of confluence leads me to believe that that is the important one. Thus, yeah, it's probably gonna be a pullback here, probably gonna pull back closer to like $6.50. Expect another bounce and another try higher after that. But I would be kind of cautious around the $9 number, just personally. If it really starts to reclaim that number on like a monthly closing basis, I'd want to reassess it. But for right now, I think most of this move's already done. And you're going to be consolidating sideways with a short-term downside move and a medium-term upside move and a long-term kind of sideways range overall. Blake says, hit the likes. It's free. It is free indeed. It is free indeed. We got free TA 101s. We got options 101s free. We even got free fucking trading accounts at this point too. We even got free AI agents. It's actually insane. The business model is free. How do I make money? I don't. Anyways, Steven Schickman says socks daily weekly. Gotcha, man. SOXS. Let's see. Yes, this thing again. Yeah, big move up there. So it did hit $5. Nice. Okay, I always need to look at this, the regular one first, and then we'll go back to this one. Short-term bounce. So SOXS should pull back in the short term, but I am starting to lean more and more towards macro top here. It's getting very, very close. But it's not in there quite yet. It's actually not in there quite yet. So short term, I do think you got to bounce here. Probably bounce back up to like 13,300. So let's kind of find the corollary on what this would look like on SOXS. So bounce there, that means pull back here. So probably back down to like 418, 420-ish read, or, oh my God, this is so confusing. 420, somewhere between there, and 380. 420 and 380, that's where I'd be looking for. That's what I'd be looking for on a rejection as well, if this thing does turn out to actually put in this case, a major low right here. But until then, I mean, we got the move to $5. In fact, it even went a little bit higher than that, about 514. So, yeah, probably should go back to neutral here, if anything. I think I might be letting my own biases get in the way a little bit too much. Look, I'd be looking for short-term downside on this one, back to those regions, reassess after that. Other than that, I don't want to make the call in the higher term timeframes just yet. I think I'm getting a little bit caught on my own biases. Steven Schickman says, Zeta, daily, weekly. Sure, man. ZETA. Zeta Global, still following the LARP lines right here, but short term backing off of Monday's rally, I think. Yeah, something like this. Look, I still think something like this is going on, man. Something like this, man. Overall, I do think that it will break out to the upside. This is not a bad consolidation at all. It's just I don't think it's necessarily mature enough. Probably going to another pass at, $24.5, $25. Probably going to back off that one as well. But I think the next time, you're probably going to push through it relatively soon after that next test. Yeah, man. Other than that, nothing really new to update right here. Kind of get rejected at the short-term area of interest that you don't really want to see it get rejected at if it's going to try immediately to the upside. So I do think short-term is going to be a pullback followed by another try to the upside. But, I don't think it's bad, man. I think this one just requires a lot of patience, which I think you have. But I mean, shit, man, you were asking for fucking doggy coin for like a year straight, maybe even 2 years straight. I don't necessarily remember the exact time frame of it, but it was a long time. So if anyone's got patience, Steven, man. Yeah, as far as this chart goes, long term, I actually think it's fine. Short term, probably pulls back a little bit. Base a little bit lower, tries again to the upside later on. Rob Willich says, what's up from the Tetons? ENTG on the daily, weekly, and monthly. My cost base is 147. Yeah, it's a little bit underwater. I'm actually underwater on this one myself as well. But like I said earlier, for me, again, you obviously don't want to borrow a conviction from someone else. It might have different preferences and might have different, methodologies and ways of looking at things, and also just what they're trying to do in general with their investments. But for me, it doesn't really make sense, in my opinion, for anyone, if you are long-term on this, which, would at least be like a weekly time frame and preferably, above there, to be calling a loss until you're back down below that previous swing low, which is, again, 123.77 cents. So as long as you're above there, I'm not going to call it a failure until that very specific condition is taken out. And at that point, look, I'll take my loss. I'll bend over and take it like a man. It's part of investment, part of trading. But for right now, hasn't necessarily happened just yet. So I don't have any actions here to make, man. As far as the daily goes, do I think it's going to go lower in the short term? No, I think it's going to try a bounce here, at least bounce back up to like 145, 146. Come back to it after that if you really want the short term, though. Cool. All right. Whoops, I lost my place. All right, there we go. 1236N says HIMS daily, weekly, monthly. I'm happy to hold this for the next couple of months, but not sure about PA this week. Okay. Okay. I remember we looked at this one on Monday, but I forget what it looks like. Yeah, pulling back down to $34. It's not. I don't think that's like a terrible thing to happen. But when I go to the weekly, look. I think long term, it actually might work out in your favor if you are like truly long term. But in the short term, I do think it's going to come back down and base around $31 to $31.50. I think you basically found probably your month's high already. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong because the daily time frame technically is actually still quite strong here, to be fair. See if there's any bearish divergence. There's bearish divergence, but you're already kind of basing off the yellow 21 EMA right there, which is 33.5 or so. So coming down to like 31.5 to 33.5, whatever. Doesn't really change all that much for the long term, I suppose. If you really start to lose $31, so that's where I think you get a much deeper pullback down to like 25, 26 bucks, which is a very big percentage move at that point. Other than that, I really don't know what to make of the higher term timeframes here. The 6-month timeframe looks very bizarre to me. Yeah, it's newer, of course, but strange. Yeah, looking at this, man, if I had to call it, it's probably gonna be some downside from here. I don't necessarily think I'd get bearish long term, but I think you got downside here. Yeah, I'd want to come back to this one in like a month and see what happens after that. But I do feel quite confident in the short term you will pull back a little bit more, 31.5 to at least 33, something like that. Only way to change my opinion is more or less if it reclaimed Monday's high. If it does that at $39, then I guess send it up to 41, 42. Probably does get there at some point this year, but yeah, not really doing much for me. I don't think I have a great opinion on this one to begin with, except for the short term. Rob Willich says Palantir weekly. I'm at my break even. Okay. Let's see. I'm still trying to be as patient as possible with Palantir, but let's pull it up first before actually speaking about it. Because where is it today? It's at 129. Look. I can tell you what I'm doing, which is waiting here. I'm okay with being wrong on this one because whether it comes down to my numbers at like 85, $90, or whether it reclaims that previous swing high at 162, or sorry, not 162, but 163. I'm happy to buy in either one of those conditions, but I won't buy here personally. Anyways, as far as what you're doing, like this is exactly what I don't want to get caught into. And I'm not trying to like chastise you or nothing like that, but it's just there's nothing clear and obvious happening over here, except, I mean, to be fair, the daily is still a downtrend as well as the weekly. So if anything, should kind of be looking for this one to come back down. That's what I'm betting on. And that's why I'm trying to be patient with this thing. Overall, in the short term, you do have another inflection point, though, to the upside. That's now going to be Tuesday's high. That's going to be 138.90. So as long as you're below there, not even a short-term reversal. And to the downside, I mean, you got hidden bearish divergence on characteristics RSI. You got extreme volatility right here. I think that you do have some downside here, probably back down to like 120 or so. I just don't know if these are relevant to you. Like if you were planning on holding this one long term, if you're just in like a short term, day trade or like weekly swing trade. I don't know. I'll put it this way, though. I'll be patient on this one. I still want to see it below $100 before I start to nibble on it as a long-term investment. That is my perspective. That is my preference for this as an asset. I want to invest in it for the long term. Don't want to day trade this one. So that's where I'm willing to play it. I want to play it below $100 or above 163. That's where I'll play it. Anyways, all right, cool. Yes, we have, oh God. Of course, like they have, oh man. All right, yeah, I'm just getting rid of these people. Jesus Christ, man. How fucking pathetic do you have to be? It's like sometimes I go on Twitter and then I'll read these threads and I'm like, who the fuck believes dumb shit like this? And then they show up in my comment section. I'm like, oh my God, I'm attracting them. Fuck, I must be retarded too. In fact, I am, man. I have a stutter and I also am dyslexic. So real retard speaking right now. Anyways, Pizza says, GM Krown, what's up, man? XRP daily and weekly. I'm guessing it's doing whatever Bitcoin's doing, which is right now not going up. Let's see. 108. All right. This one obviously in a worse way than Bitcoin. This is kind of the problem with a lot of these shitcoins, right? Is that Bitcoin can stumble a bit, technically still find a higher low, whereas something like SRP, it's already so close to even the middle of the range that it's just not fucking good. Anyways, hidden bearish divergence on characteristics RSI. In fact, it's not just this point, but it's also this point as well. So technically that would be like a 3-drive variety right there. Not great. But again, whatever Bitcoin does, this thing should mirror. If it comes back down to like 105, I think you'll get another bounce attempt right there. You got down to 107 today. Well, yeah. As far as the daily goes, nothing really changed here, man. Like, can't get bullish on this as long as you're below. Now, last Friday's high is 118. It's a very obvious inflection point now. And to the downside, I mean, there's really no reason why this thing can't test back down around last week's low, I guess. I think you get another bounce attempt there, though, to be fair. Let's see the other time frames. 2-week time frame, not really giving us much. Monthly. I mean, if the monthly wants to break down, it's a long way down. I mean, look, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but if this situation occurred, I would expect a significant washout for XRP. If Bitcoin were to really break below, $60,000, there's no reason why XRP can't get back down to 50, 60 cents. Be really fucking ugly, but forgive me for having a little bit of hopium for holding around a region like this. Until Bitcoin really breaks down, shouldn't really be looking for many things to break down, but do know your risk, obviously. On the other side, like I said, the good thing, I'm trying to find some hopium here. The good thing is that now, instead of having to reclaim 130 to flip this bitch around, all you need to do is just reclaim 118.25. Not bad. A little bit of a consolation prize right there. And Pete's is back in. He's looking at ZEC daily and weekly. Okay. ZEC, if memory serves me correctly, this one was still holding about sideways last time we looked at it. And yeah, still holding sideways here. In fact, even having a little bit of a nice rally yesterday, I think it was. Yeah, not bad. Overall, I don't hold ZEC. I don't necessarily love it or anything like this, like from a fundamental perspective. But as far as charts go, it's hard to argue that this thing hasn't had one of the better crypto charts, at least this year. At least it's gone up. At least from the start of the year, it's actually gone up. Holy shit. It has a gain on the year. Oh my Lord. Yeah. Up 131% almost right now. Not bad at all, in fact. Anyways, as far as the daily and weekly go, as you did ask for, I actually kind of like what this one's doing right here. You have very obvious range, and the bias here, to be fair, is actually on a bullish resolution. The top side of your range on the daily is 541 and 13 cents, and the bottom side of your range on a daily is about 732. Dyslexia speaking again. 372. 372 is what I'm trying to say. You're quite literally in the middle of the range. I have no call right there, but overall, I do expect this range to go on for, a little bit more time, and I actually would have a bullish bias on it, to be fair. Breaking above 541, you should have a quick move back up to that $750 to $800 high. Probably just continues on from there. And of course, you do break below 372, then I think it's going to be pretty fucking ugly. I think you're going down to $300. But until you get one of those two things happening, the bias is on an upside resolution. The quarterly, one of the better quarterlies in cryptocurrency land, at least. So if anything has a chance, I guess it would be this. Other than that, I would just be waiting for the break of that range bound with a slight bullish bias there. Rob Willich says Tesla weekly 450 or 360 first. Good question. Let's actually look at it first, maybe. Yesterday. No, Monday it was trading at 420. And as always, Tesla, you can always guarantee that Tesla's just going to be a volatile little fucking squirrel running around here. Still though, the ranges from earlier this week are more or less the same. In fact, the ranges for the last month or even 2 months here are basically the same. Let's go over this. 432 and 86 cents to the upside is your range boundary, or basically, trade back above that and should have a nice move back up to about 450, 460. That would be my condition for that being extremely likely. And to the downside, obviously, you're looking at 360, I believe it was. So that is the bottom side of your range. Even if it did get back down to 360, it actually doesn't destroy things that much. Now, sorry, I'm assuming you meant 360 at the bottom side of the range. 360 itself would actually be below that previous low from late June. So yeah, that would actually be incredibly bearish. It basically, if it got back down even, somewhere around 370, I'd probably say, okay, not only is 360 going to get hit, but you're probably going to be trading, well below that in the not so distant future. Regardless of that, man, For the past few weeks here, I've been saying the same thing on Tesla. I do not have a good opinion on it because it is so fucking volatile here in the short and medium term, and the range still has not been resolved. Thus, I don't have a call or bias here, really. I know that's not very helpful, and I know this might not be what you want to hear, but I don't want to bullshit you on that. I guess the next thing I'd be looking for is, if the weekly close below like 380, does that give it a slightly higher probability to see that 350 or 360 move? I guess. Back above last week's high, and I think things start to look pretty good for this thing. But yeah, man, I'm not going off of much here, man. It's in the middle of the range. We've seen so many pumps, so many dumps this whole way through. I've resolved to not calling this thing for like the last month. I've been saying the same shit, and I kind of got the same thing to say here as well. Every time you think it's got a chance, and it kind of fails, and every time you think it's failing, it's kind of got a chance. If I had to call it, I do think it's going to be up from here. This is just complete fucking crystal ball, pulling it out of my asshole. Just complete vibes and intuition. But yeah, it ain't going off much. Ain't going off much right there. You basically, I think you can manage on ranges quicker than what you presented. But if I had to call it, maybe a little bit more short-term downside here and then pop back up would be my call, I guess. Anyways, Rob Willich says, 1 to 2 year time frame. Thank you for the preference here. That actually massively helps. What are your feeling emotions on Own B? Okay, I think this is a new one. It sounds like it's some sort of a Bitcoin, Bitwise Bitcoin Standard Corporations. Okay, whatever the fuck that is. Just own some Bitcoin, just own Bitcoin and some good equities instead. What would I do? Okay, I can give you my preference. Like, absolutely, I'd want to own just spot Bitcoin myself in my own wallet, and then also own equities. Would I want to own this? I just don't see, I don't see the advantage of owning this over spot Bitcoin. The reason why I say that is because, well, a few things. One, obviously ownership and everything, if you really do want the hedge against global financial uncertainty and blah, 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 and, you want to be a prepper, which I guess maybe like I'm somewhat of, I have like fucking 10,000 rounds of 5.56 sitting in my closet. So I guess I'm kind of a prepper. For those reasons, yeah, Bitcoin's going to make more sense. And then also, the way that I think is that, well, if you hold spot Bitcoin, then that is more diversification than holding it in a traditional market investment trust. And seeing as this is a mutual fund or investment trust, you're probably paying some sort of expense ratio as well. So I wouldn't. Now let's actually measure this thing on a percentage basis and see how it's done versus Bitcoin. So from the October high to where it's currently sitting at right now, it's down 55.5%. Is that better or worse than spot Bitcoin? Let's see. I'm going to guess that that's actually worse than spot Bitcoin. In fact, I'm almost certain that it is as of current price. Yeah. So right now, Bitcoin spot is down about 50.5 to 51% from the October high to where it's currently sitting at right now. So your investment trust has 10% worse negative returns. It has negative returns. And 10% is that's kind of a lot when you add it up over time. So I would say, no, I wouldn't want to do that unless if there was just like some reason for like ease of access or something like this. But that is not my personal preference. My personal preference is if I want to own Bitcoin, I want to own it not on an exchange. I want to own spot Bitcoin in a wallet, in like a physical wallet of some sort. So yeah, anyways. And yeah, owning equities. In fact, I think owning equities is the major call. Look, I know that this channel started out as like a Bitcoin trading and analysis channel, but as time goes on, the real market is in traditional market still. Unfortunately, it is what it is, man. Anyways. Squad juice. Nice one, dude. IBIT did not have the 521 EMA cross on the daily. I don't know if I care that much about IBIT. I haven't really been watching this chart that much just yet, just because, it just hasn't had the history to really populate. But I guess the daily at least has a 377 now, so can't be that bad. And you are right. It definitely did not get that crossover here, so that would definitely keep me honest on this one as well. And you know what, T tonight, you bring up a really good point as well to keep me honest here, because now that CME trades 24/7 on the weekends as well, I mean, that's what 24/7 means, obviously, but it trades on the weekends now too. I think that the signal from this chart is going to basically be indecipherable from spot price action because they are going to have more or less the same chart. The weekly closure will be different, to be fair, but as far as the actual like day-to-day stuff, they really shouldn't be that much different. So you know what? I think you may indeed be right on this. It's going to be the better chart to watch in the same way that CME was a better chart to watch until recently. So I'm going to keep an eye on this, and thank you for reminding about this because I completely whiffed on that. And if this one plays out to the downside, you're definitely going to hear me. You're definitely going to hear me talk about that a lot in the future. Anyways, Derek Dombrowski has retracted his message. Why would you do such things? How dare you? I can't find it actually. Benny Blanco from the Bronx says, we stick to the guns. We stick to our guns. Haters are mad. That's right. USA. Fuck yeah, man. Bitcoin holding 60,000 with terrible news. That's interesting and kind of cool. It's a little bit too early to judge that one just yet. For me, again, it's all about the daily closure here. It's all about the daily closure here. Okay. Let's see. Well, I guess I can't find the message from Derek Dombrowski, so I will. What's up, Mr. Warlord? I shall go on to the next one then. Sorry about that, man, but like I just don't retract the message. I guess. I don't know. Perhaps something happened. Key AV says ATAI. ATAI. Is this another AI company? No, it's not actually. Health technology, nice. I'm starting to like a lot of these things. Really like the formation over here, really like the consolidation. I don't necessarily know or think that it's ready like today or this week to break out, but I do think that this one is baking a nice breakout going into probably the end of this month and almost certainly August and September. Monthly time frame has been consolidating since October of last year. So this is going on for like what, 10 months now? Yeah, nine-ish months. Like I said, I don't know if it's going to be this week or this month, probably not, but I do think this one will give a real try to the upside, probably late this month and very likely in August. The weekly already has a higher low right here. It's back around that previous swing high from April. I really like this setup. I think it got a pretty easy invalidation. This is kind of the charts that I love to see on this channel. You know, I've definitely been struggling a little bit earlier today, but on this one in particular, this is easily the most obvious setup. You got an obvious invalidation point that would simply be on any sort of a closure back down below about 4.25. And until then, I mean, the bias is absolutely on an upside continuation move here and in a real breakout. But technically speaking, you can't actually validate that breakout until you're back above 550, let's say. So above 550, hey, get ready for another retest of the previous highs from October of last year at 675. Probably short-term pullback from there, but this looks like a real reversal to me, man. I mean, on the macro here too, you got the monthly putting in higher lows and higher highs, and then there's just consolidation at a very high level. This is reaccumulation. That's good. It's a good sign, especially on low volatility here as well. So all of these things, I mean, again, I'm not saying it's going to play out this week or maybe not even this month, but I think later on in this quarter, yeah, this is looking pretty good. At least a lot more obvious and very, very obvious risk defined there as well. Corked87 says, good morning. What's up, man? Can you please tell me your settings for BBWP? They should be, well, to be fair, I think characters changed the default around it, over time, but I believe they are now default. Anyways, I use obviously price, source, close. I use a simple moving average basis type. Look, you could also use an EMA as well. It's really not going to change it that much. It's really not going to, it's going to be very minute changes, but I technically do stick with SMA. Sometimes I'll go to an EMA, but for the most part, when you're seeing my streams, it is going to be these settings. So SMA basis, moving average length is going to be a 7 and the look back period is 100. That's what I do for just general analysis. There are specific strategies where I will have different settings, but those are pertaining specifically to those strategies, optimized so that those strategies can, well, so that they work basically. But as far as this goes, whenever you're looking at, my main screen here on like a random video, that's what it is. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Caretaker, giving away the secret. I love shit coins, Chris Fella. Shorting them is some of the easiest money I've ever made. I know. And I'm getting extremely, extremely jealous at the moment. Really though, I get it. I get it. Like, that's where the real money is in these things. I wonder if anyone's got any good shit coins to be shorting today. Our shorting queen hasn't showed up in a little while, so perhaps not. Anyways, ZPH says, do you plan on moving more into biotech? I mean, I have decent positions in the major biotech ETFs. I haven't gone into what's called into like singular stocks. Okay, I'm guessing you probably mean this one on NAS rather than ASX, although it is the same company, it looks like. Similar to the last one, you have a reversal here. You even have a bit of a inverse head and shoulders on the weekly time frame. You got left shoulder, head, and right shoulder right here. You're back above the neckline, so technically, it's in the process of breaking out, I guess. But I guess that's how like a pattern person would look at it. The way that I look at it, however, is that the previous breakdown level from like a really big swing, those always matter. Those almost always matter. And so that'd be like my big number to be aware of. That's 1258. If you can reclaim that, I think you honestly go all the way back up to your previous like $16, $17 highs. That's a fucking phenomenally massive move. And in relatively a short amount of time as well. As far as you didn't even give me any time frames to go off. As far as the daily goes, I think got some downside here. I think you probably base back down around like $10.90 to $11. Is that concerning for you? I don't know. Could it go even a little bit lower? I guess like worst case scenario, maybe like 1030, something like that. But these are still higher lows in the overall trend. So I'm not that concerned. I just look at this as a bit of a reset into a higher low, and then you actually try your upside move. Does it actually break above 1258 or not on that upside move? Your guess is as good as mine. But if it does, I think you got a big, massive, girthy breakout to be excited for. Other than that, yeah, you do have an inverse head and shoulders right here, and I think it's a lot more obvious on the monthly, perhaps. I guess I'd be biased towards upside, but am I moving on singular biotechs right now? No, I'm not. I just haven't. I have a very bad experience with going with singular biotechs just because these things can ride or die on announcements, and that's why I prefer to play the ETFs, because those, look, you're not gonna have as much gains unless as you would if you picked like a massive winner. Obviously, I mean, that's pretty much true with anything, but they are quite consistent. So for example, I'm a lot more interested in trading, or not necessarily trading, but investing in something like IBB or XBI, because you don't need to be a fucking genius to read this chart. It's going up over the long term. You accumulate on the down spikes, and then you just wait for the up spikes. It's that fucking simple. It's really that fucking simple on a lot of these things. It just requires a lot of patience. But when I look at the quarterly, when I look at the 6-month time frame, do I think these things go higher into end of year? Yeah, I do think so. Do I think they could have another correction in I guess in the short term, maybe like 10%, 5 to 10%? Sure, but I'll be a buyer there. So yeah. Anyways, what's up, Jeff P? Remember the Link Marines? Oh, yes, I do, sir. We have the XRP Army. We got the Link Marines. We got the fucking Hexkins. Where are they now? Who knows? We may never know the truth. Anyways, okay. Let's see. Adam Collane says, GM, sir, still holding Robo? I am. I saw it came down quite significantly this morning too. But again, this is a very, very long-term investment for me. And I bought at prices that are pretty much about 50% lower from here right now. So a pullback like this is not a concern for me. I would start to de-risk on my positions. If it did lose its last weekly higher low, that would be below about $65. So possible, sure, but it's nowhere near that right now. So I'm not that concerned. Do I think this thing could go lower in the short term? Yeah, for sure. $75 wouldn't be that, crazy in my opinion. Yeah, anywhere between 75 and perhaps even all the way down to like 70, I think is even somewhat likely this quarter before it tries another upside push. That is effectively your last major macro high from 2021 and also the red 5 EMA on the quarterly time frame here. So these things, quite commonly they do happen. Overall, I'm still holding until my conditions are unmet. So yeah, am I still holding it? Yes, I am. And when I look at the weekly, do I think it has a little more downside? Yeah, you got lots of drives of bearish divergence right there, and monthly, quarterly, and 6-month reconnects, not that crazy. So yeah, I'll be looking for a little bit of downside, but I still like it personally. Excuse me. Had a bunch of Texas barbecue this morning. It's really fucking good. It's just leftovers from 4th of July, baby. Best fucking holiday, huh? Anyways, which stocks, ETFs are you seeing as good plays? I mean, great question, man. Let me just give away my whole playbook here. I will do an update on my macro investment portfolio. I want to do it on the exact year anniversary as the initial video, which probably is coming up like relatively soon. Most of them I still hold, but I did sell a couple, or I know, I mean, I know that I sold at least a couple in a big way, like completely out. That was REMX, this one right here. This one topped at about 111. I sold at 105. And then I sold 90% at 105, and then I sold the last 10% at 90, and then said goodbye. As far as the other ETFs, the ones that I like, the big ones that I like are still the same, more or less. The boring stuff, man. What do I like? I like VUG. I like XBI. VTI, obviously, that's just going to be like your general stock market, more or less. I like triple Qs. I like my defense technology, like ITA, XAR, even SHLD, which has been taking a shitter recently, but I actually still think this is probably good long term. What else? REMX probably is going to be good long term, but I did sell all of it just because I think it's top for a very long time. I think the narrative's over, and I think that thing is going to be depreciating in value for quite some time, I suppose. Other than that, AIQ, I've only added to this position long term. What other ETFs do I have here? I think that's pretty much all of the major ones that I have. Yeah, pretty much everything I have is on this list, but not everything on this list I do own. And the other one that I sold all of was ROBT. ROBT, I sold everything of. The reason why is because it doesn't perform as well as ROBO. So yeah, I'm still in that sector, I guess. It's just I sold out of that one because the percentage gains have not been as good as the other one, and that's been very consistent. But that was, again, I sold that one quite some time ago as well, maybe like 2-3 months ago. Okay, let's see. Aiden 6122 says, check out AIoT, looking for good entry. Deep value play compared to Samsara. All right, don't know either of these, so I will just run off of your preferences here, sir. AIoT, okay. Deep value play compared to something else. All right. Usually famous last words, but hey, I'll run with your assumptions in this case. At least you got a monthly high or low right here, so there is a chance, but it's like Dumb and Dumber. No, it's not Dumb and Dumber. We're just making a joke. Look, if I'm just looking at this chart, I don't necessarily like it. If you have your convictions that you love this thing fundamentally and blah, 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 that's great. That's a different game. That's not what I'm playing right here. If I'm looking at this as a chart, I don't like it. Don't think it's a winner. Don't think it's something that I want to be involved in. The only way that I would consider this thing being, quote unquote good is if it could reclaim your 2025 January high, which you probably don't want to hear because that's around like $9. So you basically got to wait for like a 2.5x move or something like that. What I'm trying to say is I don't like this chart. And I wouldn't be playing it right here unless like I absolutely just love this thing from a narrative perspective or whatever. Packaged software, technology, services, these sort of things, semiconductors, I'm not interested in at this moment. I think that most of these things I've seen the overwhelming majority of their rallies, and a lot of them have already topped. Intel is probably topped now, or at least this one's topped for like at least, a little bit of time. And a lot of them have topped, probably for the whole cycle. And yeah, there are still some that are going quite well. That probably have like another month or two, maybe even 3 months. But a lot of them, I think in terms of relative gains, right? So if I think that they are 90% done through their macro rallies, then I'm not going to be interested in allocating to something like that than an asset class that I think is only like 30% through its macro rally, for example. Anyways, XRen says, hello, sir. What's up, man? SMCI. Okay. SMCI. Super microcomputer. Cool name. And not great chart. I mean, look, it's not a terrible chart, obviously. At least it went up over here. But, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Would I pick this? No, not really. I don't see anything necessarily bullish about this as long as you're below that 59 or so dollar high. I mean, should even the $51.5 high right here is probably a fine management point to get bullish off of. What I see is high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high again. So the trend is your friend right now on the monthly, and the monthly is down, and that's not good, obviously. So if you're just on a daily though, that's a different story. Let's go over here to the daily. Daily time frame probably is a bounce. Probably is a bounce right here. In fact, daily bullish divergence developing. If it can finish the day here or higher, I think you open up, the rest of, or you close the rest of this week on a bit of a bounce, maybe back up to like $30 or so. Not terrible, but I wouldn't necessarily be bullish on this thing as long as you're especially below $51.5, let's say. Steve buys crypto. Nice. What is your daily diet, Krown? I know it's different for everyone, but curious what yours looks like. Well, it's been a little bit different recently just because we had 4th of July at my place, and we had all the food over here, all the barbecue, all of the goodies. And so I've been indulging myself in non-dairy items, but generally what I eat in a day is I start off the day, I have a cup of bone broth, beef bone broth. And then what else do I have? Then I have like a handful of blueberries. Wait a little bit of time. Then I start cooking up a couple of fatty patties plus a couple of eggs, and I smother them in guacamole. And that's what I have for breakfast. Maybe some coffee, usually some coffee. If it's going to be a workout day, definitely coffee. After that, I go to the gym. I do my work here. I do all of that, do all of like the activities of the day, that require brain power and physical power. And then when I come home, I'll typically have either like a steak and honey, or my other meal is I'll do like chicken thighs with a shit ton of potatoes as my carbs. And that's basically it for the day. Try to get around like 3,000 calories or so. Still can't gain weight though, which is not fun. Anyways, frosted edibles. Nice name, sir. SWMR daily, pretty please. Sure, man. SWMR. Got it. Aiden says, still link marine, down bad, but it's an investment. Nice. We are all community members at the moment. Anyways, SWMR, trendless here, not really giving us much indication of either which way, to be fair. If you're just on a daily time frame, where would I be calling it from here? Your guess is as good as mine, man. If I had to call it, it'd probably be down. Am I going off of that much? No, I'm not. I'm going off of the hour. The hourly has some hidden bearish divergence right there. So probably fills the gap back down around like $40.5. I'm looking at the daily. I have no edge here. Why? Because the chart is literally a line chart since its inception back in March of the 20th of March. So yeah, really haven't been around for long enough to do much of anything, to be fair. I had to call it short-term down, but not necessarily like a disastrous move. It's just short-term down. Sorry, man. I just can't. I just don't have good opinions on shit like this. There's just nothing to go off of, really. But if I had to call it, it'd be down, I guess. It would be down. Anyways, okay. That was... Wait a second. Okay, yes, we got through that. Yes, now we are at Xantrem. He says TEM, daily weekly. When would you call a reversal? TEM, okay. Tempest. Reversal in which way? To the upside or the downside? Well, right now it's in a downtrend, so probably an uptrend reversal, I'm guessing. I actually think that you could call an early reversal if it did reclaim the $62 number on a weekly closing basis. If that happens, I'd be looking for a big move up to like 75-ish, somewhere around there, maybe higher. But for right now, still in a technical downtrend, obviously. And if it does want to reject, like if it wants to continue with the downtrend, this should be your next lower high right here, like perfectly on that lower high. At the same time, if it's going to reverse, well, yeah, not only is reclaiming, what exactly was that number? $62 a weekly swing pivot, but also it's going to be basically your daily 200 simple. So whichever one of those you reclaim first, whether it be a daily closure or weekly closure, daily is going to be on the 200 simple, weekly is going to be on 63. Whichever one happens first, I'd call a reversal there, and big moves up. Until then, it's kind of like the point of ideal rejection if you want to be bearish. You're going to have some hidden bearish divergence there too, I'm assuming, on the weekly. Yeah, you will. So yeah, I guess that's when I'd call a reversal, assuming that's what you mean, man. Cool. All right. Derek Dombrowski says my message was for ENTG and he went through it twice. All good, man. All good. I'm glad that we got through it regardless. Damn, man. We just got through all of these chats real fast today. Short stream, but that's actually good for me because So range day, baby. Going to the range later. And I got all kinds of new guns to try out too. Got a nice lever action gun to try out. Got a nice, got to try out my SCAR with the ACOG now because I haven't done that just yet. What else do I have? The CAC gun, the CAC rifle, the Stoner rifle, the Knight's Armament 11.5-inch is going to get fired off for its first time in its little life now. And I have an M1 Garand sitting in the shop at the moment. I'm so excited. I'm oh so excited. All right, let's see. Dan Robinson says, hey, Krown, I'm aware of your long-term view on gold. Okay. However, can you check my TA on GLD? How many drives of hidden bearish divergence are there on the daily, not the 24-hour? I mean, okay. Do you want to look specifically at the gold, the GLD ETF on NYSE? I know you asked about like literally the daily time frame, but yeah, the 24-hour time, they're going to be more or less the same, man. Does it have hidden bearish divergence? Yes, it does. It does. It should have 1, 2, 3 drives right here. You can see the high today, or I guess this would be Monday's high to be fair, is higher than, of course, the 16th of June and also the 4th of June and even the 29th of May when, for example, the 29th of May, this thing was trading at 420. So yeah. Say 3 drives, 4 drives, whatever you want to say. There's hidden bearish divergence indeed. Something like this, probably good enough to get it back down to the lows. But Bitcoin, Bitcoin's kind of fighting off a little bit right here. And also, now that I recognize it too, and kind of like a lesser known feature of the price action pivots indicator is these trendline extensions. It's interesting to me how often these things actually price plays off of. Almost every time. If you watch these things intra-bar, it plays off them almost every fucking time. So a lot of scalps you made off those. Not necessarily saying that it's going to definitely hold here, but what I am saying is that these, bounces from an area like this, they happen so fucking often. It's crazy. Probably a nice strategy to be made from there on just intra-bar bounces in this case. There are slight differences. Yeah, there's gonna be slight differences, but it's gonna be about the same. Look, I would agree with your 4 call. I would agree with your 4 call. Let's have some foreplay on your 4 call. Yes, indeed, sir. Yeah, I would agree. Is there a black swan possibility? Well, of course, there's always black swan possibility. A black swan. Yeah, I mean, by the sheer definition of, look, anything's possible, right? It's just they're low probability. So is it a possibility? It's always possible. It's always possible. It just might be, well, by definition, it is very low probability, which is why, a true black swan, no one really sees coming. Paquito Loco says, Iron daily weekly. Sure, man. Sure. Let's see. Iron. I still have it bouncing here. Is it going to bounce here or not? I don't know, but I still have it bouncing here, and I don't have the indications necessary to say that it has completely failed just yet. So that would be requiring a daily closure below 37.75. Until then, I still think you got to bounce here. I just don't have any reason to change that analysis. Now, if it does fail that number, 37.75, it's going to get bad. Get ready for 34 to 30. And from there, probably a real breakdown, but... Is there something going on with Essential Command managed portfolio strat? Most of the fields are blank and it hasn't been active for nearly a week. I think the developer actually took it down in the short term. I sent a message to CC, but nothing. Blake, are you in their Discord? Because the best way to talk with them, you can talk literally directly with the lead developer in their Discord. His name is Squirrel. Usually he'll send out an announcement. Like, if you're not in the Discord, you really should be in the Discord because that's where they announce these sort of things. I know that he was doing some work on it previously. I thought that was like about a week or 2 ago. So if it's still ongoing, then I guess that would kind of explain that, right? Yeah. Thanks for the Penga analysis. All good, man. All good. Have we went over ES? No, actually we haven't, and we certainly should because this one is still doing its thing over here. I really don't have a major update with this one from yesterday's video or even really from last week's video when it put in this higher low at 73.53. That was where I felt like we actually, had to do some real analysis and shit like that. But as of right now, and sorry, this code is no longer active, so let's get rid of that. As of right now, it's still following the overall uptrend, so I don't really have, I just don't have anything to change here. Yesterday, we did say, this might pull back a little bit, but that's fine. Really, for me at the moment, the higher term timeframes like the weekly are what need to be focused on here because as long as this thing's above the red 5 EMA, I'm just looking up and to the right and for trend continuation. I don't want to complicate it any more than that. I know people love to complicate these things, and it really doesn't need to be done. It really doesn't need to be done. If anything, I think probably this morning's low is going to be the low. If I had to call it, that's probably what it's going to be. If it loses this morning low, then I would be looking for a much deeper correction, at least down to 7,400. But until that happens, I'm just trying to make this one as simple as possible, man. Up and to the right, man. Up and to the right, and this morning's low should be the low if this one is truly bullish from here. Yeah, not much other than that, man. Maybe we could look at like a 3-week time frame though. I think this one is gonna be closing on Friday, so let's see what this one looks like currently. So far, so good. Still rides above the red 5 EMA as well. So to me, I'm just looking at this as trend continuation. Cool. All right. Nova Spark says, so that leverage action is finally done. Any new builds you're going to do? It's kind of done. I don't have a suppressor for it, but I did make it into like the full Space Cowboy get up, which is really, really cool. It shoots 357 Magnum as well. I'm going to have so much fun with that, man. Any new builds you're going to do? I have a couple of FRT builds, and I don't know. I think I'm like pretty gunned out at this point now. I just counted them all up, and I think I have like close to 30 at this point. So I think that's enough for now, and until I see the next shiny thing. I've kind of just even run out of ideas of what to even get at this point too. I don't know, maybe an MP5 clone, but yeah, man. I'm not really interested in pistols though. I think that's where a lot of people get lost. Like those pistols can cost a ton of money. I've seen $5,000 Terran tactical pistols. What the fuck? Could be a 50 cal. Oh God, no, I can't do a 50 cal. I might do a belt fed. My friend who owns a shop in Texas offered me yesterday a pretty good price on a 249, an M249 saw. Like I'm talking about the fucking belt fed machine guns. They're pretty awesome. Can I swap from the XRP army to the Krown army? Always welcome, sir. Always welcome. DRAM ETF. We can look at that. See how these things are doing. Yeah, big down. Big down. Well, that's on the 3-week. Let's see the daily. Probably going to try a bounce here, but I would be kind of a bit skeptical when the bounce gets to like 68, somewhere between 68 and 72, something like that. Yeah, 2011s are expensive. Yeah, I don't really understand why. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be that expensive. I just haven't done the research to understand why they are so complicated or sophisticated or whatever that makes them cost so much. Or maybe it's just the fucking stupid tax. Could also be that too. I knew you'd eventually get an FRT. Oh yeah, man. I have multiple FRTs. Getting the Bork is another fucking story though. I'll tell you that. Yeah, saw. But the thing is that with the saws, there's no FRTs, but you can get belt fed uppers that you can slap on your AR-15 like mil spec lowers, which are pretty awesome. And it's like half the price, like $4,000 to $5,000. Kind of crazy. Oh no, 50 guns. Oh, well. The next milestone has now been made. Let's go, baby. Can you show us? I am in the process of working with an expert to put together a gun wall, but I actually don't know if I'll be able to put them in the videos. I don't know if YouTube censors that or not. I think I might just create another channel. I'll probably just like show off my guns and be like, hey, I'm not a fucking expert at this shit or nothing like that, but I'm just a big enthusiast and I think they're cool. Here's my guns, sir. Check out my gun cave. I'm not trying to be like fucking, Mr. Green Beret, military expert, because I'm not. I'm not. I'm just having fun and LARPing around. And look, if the fucking purpled hair communist revolution ever begins, we're prepared. That's all I have to say. But other than that, just a full-on LARP, man. Just a full-on LARP, and I like it. But yeah, man. We have night vision as well. We have don't have thermal vision, but I just started getting into prism scopes as well. I think prism scopes are really awesome because I have astigmatism. Cool. Where's Sol sitting relative to its key support and resistance levels? God. The Sol army is here as well. Depends what time frame you're on, of course. To the upside, there ain't nothing exciting about this as long as you're below $100 basically. And to the downside, there is no floor. I mean, your next big one's about $52, and below there you got like $25 to $30. look, if Bitcoin's bottomed here, do I think Solana is going to go, lower? Probably not. If Bitcoin hasn't bottomed, then do I think Solana goes significantly lower? Then hell yeah, it's probably going to go to like 25, 30. But yeah, man, it's, I just don't think that this thing is interesting as an investment or anything like that. I can't really understand the hype behind it. As far as charts goes, I think it's pretty ugly. I think it's pretty bad. And ultimately, I think if you want to play shitcoin relay, you're better off waiting for the next cycle to begin and, picking up the next big thing, I guess. Once it's belt fed, the gun is getting hungry. I know. Look, every time I see a 556 round going down the range, I'm like, there's another 40 to 50 cents out of my pocket. Shoot a 30 round. Oh, that's $15. No problem. XRP has underperformed. Better assets out there. That's the only nice thing I can say. Yeah, I mean, I could actually say not a lot of nice things about XRP just because unlike 99.9% of shitcoins in the world, it actually has not gone down cycle over cycle and made new macro lows. Almost everything else, you cannot say that for. So at least it's done that. Now, has it been a great performer? No, of course not. You're at basically the same price you were about 7-8 years ago. So opportunity cost is a real thing. And even worse than that is, of course, inflation eroding that on top of everything else. Collab with Grantham when I'm sure Flannel Daddy will love to have me. How's Costco looking here on the monthly? Let's check it out. I'm single-handedly keeping Costco in business myself, so hopefully they're doing well. I don't think they need my help. I think they're fine. Overall, really, really good. We've been looking for a correction on Costco to emerge for quite some time, and it looks like finally happening. But is the correction already over? It barely began. It barely fucking began. It might already be over. Costco may just be that strong. Look, I wouldn't mind one more move down to $900 even, but whether you're at, whether you already bottomed at 920 or 900 or 880 for that matter, in my opinion, splitting hairs. But long term, I still really like this one. When I look at the quarterly, I think you probably do, fish a little bit lower for the low before it's actually in, but still, I'm splitting hairs here. I wouldn't be surprised if it just went up from here, to be honest with you. But yeah, if there is one more correction lower, somewhere around $900, give or take, like $10 from that number, let's say. Overall, long-term macro bullish, especially as long as you're below especially as long as you are above 850, something like that. Yeah. 100 round boxes feel like snacks with high roof. Yeah, I can already see it, man. I can already see it. But just the sight of it sitting in my living room will be magnificent and glorious, and I would love that. XRP is pretty nice to move funds. Would never hold it, but lol, fair enough. I mean, I guess it is fast. The weird thing about XRP is that they just seem to have the best marketing efforts, because whenever I get hit up by like a college friend who says, hey, I heard about the crypto stuff. What do you think about XRP? And it's like, it's always XRP that they ask about every fucking time. XRP, every time. Can you do UPS or SHLD? Let's do UPS. United Parcel Service. I got to say, they do a great job, at least so far. I kind of like this being a higher low right here. And I would say if you can even just finish this month out above 110, you probably do confirm that as a higher low. Overall, if I had to call it, I do think that you're going to trade back up to 120. I think it's been beat up enough to the downside here. You're getting your major massive pity bounce, and realistically, you could have a very big rally from here and still be kind of long-term fucked. But for example, this thing could rally up all the way. I'm not saying it's going to, but just for example's sake, it could rally up all the way to like 150, and you don't really reverse the trend or anything like that. So I do think you have upside in the short and medium term from here, especially if you finish out this monthly above about 110. I think that you do have a nice move up to at least 120, 122 region. By Zev Technologies, what about it? Zev AR-15 billet core elite rifle, 223 wild, 16. I don't know that one. I'm kind of like I said, I'm kind of AR-15 out, man. Like I have every major AR-15 that I really want. I have Oh God, let's go through the list. Okay, let's start from smaller barrel size to bigger barrel size. So I have I have an 8-inch LMT upper, which has gold plates. So it's a Gucci gun. It's great. It's pretty hilarious looking. I have a Mark 18, DD Mark 18. I have an 11.5-inch Geisley. I have an 11.5-inch Knights Armament SR15. I have a 12.5-inch BCM. I have a 13.7 Geisley. I have a 14.5 Geisley. I have a 14.5 BCM. I have a 16 Sons of Liberty L89. I have an IWI Carmel. I have an IWI Tavor X95. I have an IWI Galil Gen 2. Well, those aren't AR-15s, those last three, but yeah, I think those are all the AR-15s, right? Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Something like that. Barbie boy gun, yes. Elsa needs it. Kind of thought XLM, XPL, and lighter looked better. We have beauty is in the eye of the beholder, sir. It's in the eye of the beholder. Anyways, any interested in insurance stocks? Shoot me a ticker. Seems to do well with high yield bonds. Check out AIZ. Okay, AIZ, Assurant. Good name. And yeah, really good chart long term. I mean, look, it's not something that I really watch myself, but I can definitely understand the allure of something like this. You know, whenever you have something that just goes generally up and to the right, that's good. It's been straight up since fucking 04, right? I mean, it did have a bit of a correction in 08, but what didn't? Other than that, not a bad bet. I wouldn't necessarily buy it right here, but if it pulled back to like 250, that seems nice to me. Insurance, a good business, man. It's a good business. It's a good business. Lev Ashton says, hey, man, Intel invalidation for a reversal down. So do you mean invalidation for the downside reversal for the downtrend turning into an uptrend, or I guess if you're like very high term time frame, then maybe like a macro reversal? Can you specify first? I'll just stick here at the bottom of the comments. But basically, I would get concerned for like a very, very deep correction if this thing takes out last month's low, which is 98.33. And again, I've sold a lot of Intel this month, or sorry, not this month, but end of last month. I still hold a core position, but I do expect this thing to go lower. I think worst case scenario to come down to like $75, $80, personally. But I'm actually not exactly sure what you are saying just yet. Snot Pama says, "Here's a PSA. I just watched Citizen Vigilante. It's a must see. I heard it's banned for the Europors, especially your Europeans. It's the feel good hit of the summer." Well, I guess I know what I'm doing tonight. I think I've seen this on Twitter somewhere. I don't know. Seems like all the right people hate it, and all the it seems like all the right people. No, it seems like all the right people love it and the wrong people hate it. Yeah, that's just an observation from like a 1-minute perusal of Twitter. Other than that, I have no fucking clue. Uptrend to downtrend. Okay, uptrend to downtrend. To be fair, that is very far away for some like Intel, because right now, what I think you have is a swing high, and you're going to go find a swing low, and that's going to be a downside swing. You know, maybe. Probably below $100, if I had to guess. But look, I can be wrong about that. Anyways, to call a real macro reversal from uptrend to downtrend, that's actually not going to happen anytime soon, to be fair. Because what's realistically going to happen? Let's assume that this is the monthly swing high right here. Well, after that, you're going to hold on. Let me get up my brush. You're gonna come down. You're going to swing down for a monthly, in this case, likely higher low. Why? Because your last higher low was all the way here at like $40. So probably not going to be going below there without at least a bounce temp first, which is going to be your higher low. Then you'd see a bounce from there, because that's going to be a swing low. So something like this. Again, not saying it's going to be exactly at these prices, but just for example's sake. And you want to see a lower high after that, and then take out that lower low to confirm the reversal. That's obviously so far away from happening. For me to comment on that is just it's not right. You know, it's too far away from happening. Now, do I think that you have a real downside here? Yeah, I do think so. I do think you're in for a bigger pullback, and ultimately, I think they'll have a very big bounce somewhere, between $80 and $100, and probably more like $80 and $90. And from there, I'd want to reassess it. But, calling that right now, too difficult. There is no way for me to say, because we quite literally don't even have a confirmed local high yet on a monthly, which is what you're looking for on a macro reversal. Now, if you're talking about a weekly, so again, I'm trying to guess your preferences here. But if you're talking about a weekly, you could confirm a reversal if this thing starts to close below $98. Why? Because that's your last weekly high or low. Now, technically, you don't have a lower high just yet. So my rule is, for an uptrend to downtrend reversal, you want to see a lower high first, then lower low. So you'd want to see a bounce here, boom, top out at like 120, then break below this low. That would be a weekly reversal for me. And that would probably open up the move towards, $80 to $90, let's say. But to call like a MAC reversal, I can't do that just yet, because it's just way too premature. The monthly doesn't even have technically even a local high in just yet. So, fair enough. Like one thing before the next, right? One moment. Sony CEO sold half his stock in Sony 2 days after they came out saying that physical media is done as of 2028. It makes sense. Sony is making some dumb decisions. Okay, let me read that again. Sony CEO sold half his stock in Sony 2 days after they came out saying that physical media. What is physical media? Like fucking newspapers? I mean, what is physical media actually? Because when I think physical, I mean like you can touch it. So am I like, I'm not understanding. I'm not sure if I'm not understanding something or if he's not understanding something, but it's not clear to me. It's actually is the best movie Yui Bowl has made. Never heard of it in my life, which isn't really saying much, to be honest. Fair enough. Iron for Mr. Lizak. Sure. We could look at Iron really quickly. Probably gonna shut this one off relatively soon here too. Oh yeah, we looked at this one earlier. Look, I still have the same thing to say as before. As long as you're above that 37.66 low, I'd be treating that as your next higher low. If you lose that on a daily closing basis even, I think you got real problems here. Probably going to come all the way back down to $30 or $31, whatever. Bounce there, but not great. Physical media, Sony just stopped making game DVDs. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't really know who uses DVDs anymore, to be fair. Blu-ray discs. They may be talking about PS discs. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Sony makes PlayStation. Oh man. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I am. Oh man, I forgot that was even a thing. It's been so long since I bought one. In 2019, they launched the OZ9, which is their own proprietary modular pistol design utilizing a steel interior receiver. Is steel better than chrome lined? That's my question, actually. VRSK bottom in, question mark. Let's see. VRSK, VR. Following up since my last post when I bought VRSK. Hopefully you bought on the lows. I like it for a bounce here. Like if you're talking about like a swing low, yeah, I think you're going to be right on that. I think you're going to trade up to like 200 plus to somewhere between 210 and 220, let's say. Yeah, you almost got over to the green 55 EMA as well. So good place for a big old bounce. I think get up to like 220-ish region pretty easily. Doesn't necessarily mean that's a reversal or anything like that, but for like a nice trade from 150 or 160 all the way up to 220, it ain't bad. Yeah, seems like a lot of people already seen this Citizen Vigilante movie. It's cool. DVDs are good for skeet shooting. Can you actually do that with them? Because that would be super awesome. I haven't bought a console since Xbox 360 days. I know, man. I would love to game. It's just I don't have the time, or I don't make the time, I guess. Honestly, movie is jumpy and just disjointed, but the message is clear. It's one of these. It's one of these, sir. Hype on the weekly and monthly. Sure, yeah, we haven't looked at that today. And to be fair, it's been one of the more interesting crypto shitcoin charts. Let's go over here to what is it going to be? Yeah, MEXC. How about that one? How about that one? All right. Yeah, not terrible. certainly not terrible still. Have to give it the benefit of the doubt as long as it's above about $65. But if you do start to close below $65 on even a daily, even like $66 on a daily, I think you might, you at least have a decent downside move. You might even have the beginning of the end, but at least a decent downside move to like 61, 62 bucks. So another 10% move or so. If you really start to lose 65, let's say on a weekly closing basis, I think that's where this one starts to turn around a bit. But until then, the trend is your friend, and it certainly is to the upside. So technically, I shouldn't really have an issue with it here. I guess I don't, but I'm just naturally skeptical of these things. If you look at the 2-day time frame, yeah, maybe a little bit more short-term downside, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to close below those numbers. 3-day time frame, this one could be a little more concerning. Yeah, I'm not looking for obvious pivots on this one, and the obvious ones are just so far away that doesn't really help. Look, above Monday's high, bullish, you're going to see new all-time highs. Below about $65.50 on a daily closing basis, I would probably be looking for another push down to $60 lows. And I want to come back and reassess after that. It could still be technically okay if that were to happen, but I'd want to reassess it in the moment. Not super far in advance. I would like to game, but I bought some guns. I know. It's just, it's a much more expensive endeavor, but goddamn, man, it's fun. It is so much fun. You will own nothing and be happy. Oh, I'm feeling very happy right now, but I'm also owning some stuff too. Yeah, see, that's the thing. America was founded on, if you read the Constitution, America was founded on what seems to me the principle of like ownership, of like property ownership. Like you have property rights here. That's like one of the most, I guess, one of the most groundbreaking things about that whole saga. Sadly, kids today will take this as normal. It opens up a can of worms for what? Uh-oh. What is this? I'd be so broke in the U.S. having to buy all those guns. Yeah, but that's the thing. You take out a few credit cards, you're all good. No problem. Your credit score might be like 50, but that's not an issue. No problem there. The no physical media bit is about whether you actually own the media. Oh, I see. Okay. So I understand. The controversy is that if you aren't able to buy the physical media, like the DVD, then you might not actually own it because it's all just on the cloud or something like this. Okay. I understand, I guess. Oh, for game ownership and stuff. Fair enough as well. But still under the under property ownership umbrella, something like that. Some cakes. Oh, so some key. YouTube translated that to cake, just so you know, crypto warlord. America's survival of the fittest, and that's all that matters. That actually kind of is what I've resolved to as well. Like, I understand why there's such a push for socialism here, especially recently. It's because many people did not choose to live here, but many people did not choose to live here. The people who choose to live here typically come here because they feel like, whether it's right or wrong, but they feel like America is a place where if you put your best efforts forwards, you can get something better, which I do think is mostly true, especially after living in other places. Is it perfect? No, obviously not. It is not perfect. And if you live in that idealistic world, you're always going to be disappointed, and you're just not going to be living in reality to begin with. But the people who did not make that choice, who were brought up in this world, who do not have that personality, that mindset, naturally, they aren't going to like that. You know, fair enough. Okay. It would be better if you just moved to like fucking China or North Korea or something like that. For the rest of us, at least, you know, let us have our land. Like, let us have our fucking land where you can play that game. If you want to play the game of capitalism, you are allowed to compete here. If you don't want to play that game, don't try to change America. Just go somewhere else. Just go somewhere else. Like, let us play the game. It's fun. Like, there are certain personality types who love that game, who excel in that game, and honestly, it probably does make a better game for a lot of people. And then there's just other people who, I'm not saying that they're wrong or right. It's just their mindset is, their preferences are that they are not like that. In which case, you know, they want, it makes sense that they want something like socialism. Okay, fair enough. But don't try to change here. Just go somewhere else where they already have it. All right. Stop fucking around here. We like this. It's fun. It's a fun game. Play the fucking game. Socialism for people that are not happy with the system. Capitalism brings biggest benefit for all. Yeah, but it creates the biggest disparities, and people don't think of things in terms of absolutes. They think of terms of things of like relativity. That's why, like the poorest person, okay, maybe not the poorest person today, but like even a poverty person today probably has a significantly better experience than, 99% of humanity if you were to measure out the last 2,000 years. I mean, you have access to like running water, at least, most likely. Most of these people even still have fucking phones. I mean, shit, man. I used to live in Chicago, okay? So I've walked by a lot of homeless people. Almost all of them got cell phones. And a lot of them are fucking fat too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a joke, but it's also not a joke. But yeah, man. Anyways, I forgot where I was going with that. Even having game on a physical disc, you need to log into their service through the internet. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. If you understand facts and reality, socialism never works. Oh, of course. But that's the thing. Like, these people just aren't educated on that. And like I said last stream, when I was in my early 20s, coming out of college, okay, I went to University of Oregon, all right? Oregon, Eugene, these places. I certainly wasn't like a communist, but I was probably tending certainly more towards socialism for sure. It's just because I hadn't experienced the world. I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about, the fuck I was doing. I was just hearing things that sounded nice, but I didn't realize like the real miracle of life is not, the real miracle is that anything is successful to begin with at all, because the fucking default is poverty. The default is nothingness. People like socialists, and the way that I acted at that age is like, it's just a given that these people are going to have these phenomenally successful companies that just run on, magically, and they're just magically amazing, and they magically are profitable all the time, and this and that. It's not that way at all, especially after getting into business myself. It's like, God damn, man, it's a fucking miracle that any of these things even work to begin with. The default is failure. The default is not just failure, it's like significant failure. It's bad. But yeah, man, people think of things not in terms of relativity. They think in terms, they don't think in terms of things of absoluteness. They think in terms of relativity. So they see Elon Musk, who, in my opinion, provides a shit ton of value. And they're like, well, I don't have that. And I went to college and they told me that I was going to be rich. I get it. I get it. It sucked. I was there as well. I don't know, man. Just move somewhere else. Move somewhere else. Believe me, you can get something similar to capitalistic socialism in Northern Europe. It does exist there. They are capitalists, but they just tax everyone's gains away, and people are very close to each other. It's not like a big economic disparity. But I can tell you from firsthand, living there for almost a decade, people ain't happy there. They say it's the happiest place on earth. It's not. They measure that in social benefits. It's a very deceiving metric. It's not true. I can tell you, I've met it's not just depressed people. Like, they have no ambitions. The average person there has no ambitions. I used to go to the boxing sparring classes, so I was around a lot of like late teens, early 20s kids, and these kids had the fucking ambition beat out of them. I don't know when it happened, but certainly by the time that I got to speak with them, it's just like they can't even conceive of something better or like trying to do better. It's insane, man. It's so intense, the conditioning there, man. It's so intense. Snotma says +1 on James and Sienna. How do you say her name? Is it Sienna or Shauna or whatever it is? Yeah, great YouTube channel, man. They are super cool. I hope that they become Americans, man. Me as well, man. I love seeing stuff like that. Like, if you love this place and you want to play that game, fucking come here. It makes it better for everyone. It really does. It really does make it better for everyone. And that is why I'm actually very much in favor of immigration to the US. Just, you got to have the right mindset. You got to provide value. And then, hell yeah, fucking let them play. Fucking let them play. Let's go. It makes it better for everyone. That's great. Crypto Warlord says, didn't know that they measured in social benefits. It's to be fair, there are multiple categories, but social benefits is at the top, and it's like a big component of declaring what is like the happiest country on those lists. The Schwab says, the news. Apple partners with Broadcom for chips, ABGO in the short term. All right, 4 hour and daily. Gotcha. Then I'll read a few more of these, and then I'm gonna go. I need to shoot some bullets off and be an American again. In the short term, I do quite like this one, actually. Probably another move a little bit more up towards $400. If we're looking at a daily time frame, I just want to get my bearings on this one more long term. Yeah, I do think that you extend this move a little bit past $400, but probably wouldn't be getting too carried away here. My personal opinion is that Broadcom's probably top for a long time, but in the short term, you have a news related rally. Whether it tops out here, whether it gets to like 400 or 410, I don't know. But I guess I'd be betting on a little bit more of an upside try in the short term. And yeah, long term though, I'm not a fan here. I'm not a fan here. Hopefully I'm wrong, but yeah, if this thing popped back to like 410, 415, I'd probably be a seller personally. Yeah, that's all I got for you, man. Yeah, Shauna. Okay, there you go. Yeah, Shauna. Even the 4-hour time frame already has some hidden bearish divergence possible here, just because the 4-hour RSI is already higher than that spike high from June 18th. So might even top out right here. Might have already seen that move play out. It's kind of the issue with playing news-related moves. But you have Saiga 12. What is that? What is Saiga 12? I hate this in Europe, and if you're not like this, you feel like an alien. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, they really do have tall poppy syndrome. Like, you try to do something more, they fucking swat you down. You know, get into line. Don't speak out. Don't stand up. Don't voice your opinions. Just sit down, shut up, and, you know, obey the unwritten laws. Being a little, basically a little bitch. It's like, for those people, we need to take them in as refugees. They are being oppressed. These are oppressed peoples. These people are productive, high value people. Fucking bring them in, baby. Bring them in. If they want to play, just fucking let them play, baby. Anyways, Saiga 12 is a Russian shotgun. Never knew that. I don't know. I just got my first shotgun the other day. It was a Mossberg Shockwave, and now immediately after that, I got a Mossberg 590A1. But other than that, haven't really played around with shotguns too much. All right. Yeah, claim asylum. You should, man. You should. I'm sure that there's a way. I can even say, well, I won't say that just yet. But I'm sure there is a way. Anyways, as far as AVGO goes, I do think you have probably a little bit more short-term upside, but I'd be a little bit concerned around 415, 420. I definitely want to revisit it if it got there, just to see. But for right now, I think it's more likely that you already have the highs and then not for the long term. But you're only speaking about the short term. Was that the one you posted on Instagram? I posted a few on Instagram. The one that I posted yesterday was a lever action. That one's pretty awesome. I'm going to fire that one off for the first time today. Probably take a few videos for today as well. But yeah, anyways, we're going to end things right there. Just quick revisiting on Bitcoin. I'm still unwilling to call Bitcoin a breakdown until it actually really comes back down below Monday's low. For right now, a little bit of a bounce. I think we revisited that earlier with Arms Private, looking at a bounce to like 62.5 to 62.7-ish region. Doesn't really change all that much. Doesn't really do anything for me either way. For me right now with Bitcoin really needs to reclaim 64, basically yesterday's high, to confirm, continuation. And to the downside, same thing as the last couple of days. It needs to come back down below Monday's low for me to get bearish, looking for a move down to like 58 or 58.5 and change, something like that, man. Anyways, we'll end things on that note. I want to wish everyone the best as always. It's been some boring times here in Bitcoin cryptocurrency land, but stuff is still happening around the card, and I'm really glad that this community started to veer more into the traditional market land, because that's where a lot of the opportunity's been, especially for this past year. So yeah, other than that,